This China visit of Anthony Albanese is getting even weirder. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered what world leaders actually talk about when the doors close, shutting out the rest of the world, just them and them? It's like, right, you know, let's sort it out, you and me, mano a mano, tin tacks. Like this visit. What did Albanese actually discuss with China's dictator Xi Jinping in the first visit that China has actually allowed from our Prime Minister in 7 years? Did Albanese bang the table and say, you got to stop threatening us, stop hacking us? Did President Xi say, well, Albo, you're right. Between you and me, here's the deal. All those trade bans we've hit you with, well, I know they're unfair. They've dropped. Okay, all of them. Amici. Or sorry, a pen yao men. But straight after the meeting, Albanese in fact rushed out with this hot take of what had actually gone on.
President Xi relayed stories about his visits to Australia, including we had an exchange about, he spoke about the Tasmanian devils as being cute animals in Australia. I pointed out that whilst I like Tasmanian devils, they're probably not as cute as pandas. He reminded us of the fact that not all pandas are cute by relaying the Kung Fu Panda story as well.
They talked about Tasmanian devils. I mean, how much of that 1 hour meeting did that take up? And then there was reminiscing about the good old days 50 years ago when another Labor MP, Prime Minister, Gough Whitlam, he became our first leader to visit China.
In China, we often say when drinking water, one should not forget those who dug the well. The Chinese people will not forget Prime Minister Whitlam for digging the well for us.
50 years ago, to this very day, Prime Minister Gough Whitlam was here in China, the first Australian Prime Minister to visit. As you said very well, I do like Chinese phrases. He dug the well from which the people of Australia and the people of China have been able to drink to our mutual benefit.
We waited 7 years for this stuff. But it does seem President Xi actually wasn't interested at all in solving any differences at this meeting. He was there for the pictures. He didn't even raise the problems that China keeps saying it has with our AUKUS deal with the US and Britain to get nuclear submarines to defend ourselves from China. Xi at this meeting couldn't even be bothered discussing it in between chanting about Tasmanian devils and good old Gough. Although Albanese did say he himself ticked off a couple of boxes.
AUKUS didn't come up explicitly. We discussed, though, regional stability, and we discussed the need for example, on Taiwan, I reiterated Australia's support for the status quo.
But Xi gave him nothing, which is why Albanese later insisted this was never going to be a transactional meeting, you know, I give you, you give me.
And that's the basis of a relationship. It isn't one where everyone just ticks off and agrees.
So what was this all about, really, apart from being able to talk face to face, which I guess is an advantage? After all, Albanese gave up some things to get this meeting and decided to let China keep its lease on the Darwin port. He's muted public criticism of China's aggression in the seas to our north, and he comes away with nothing. He might be forgiven for thinking he was played like a fiddle. And all that Xi seems to have wanted was to show the world he can treat Australia like dirt for 7 years, punishing with stupid bans, and will still come rushing to Beijing when summoned, looking absurdly grateful and talking of Tasmanian devils. And we'll make ourselves now more dependent on Chinese trade when, in fact, the US and European countries are trying to decouple instead so China doesn't have so much leverage over them. Now, one good thing in Albanese's favour, China did drop many of the trade bans against Australia in the lead up to this meeting, because I guess it figured it actually wanted what we were selling, and the message had been sent anyway. I mean, Australia, you must show respect or else. But at least Albanese had not caved in to China in the meantime, just like the previous Turnbull and Morrison governments didn't either. In that respect, China, I guess, has now figured that the bans weren't working anymore. That's a credit not just to Albanese, but to Turnbull and Morrison as well. But that's about as far as this goes. Now, the fact that dictator Xi likes Tasmanian devils cuts no ice. He liked them before he smashed us, and he likes them now. And he'll still like them if he does decide to invade Taiwan. Hitler liked dogs. I mean, so what? So I'd be very, very careful to read anything into this meeting, except that Albanese was allowed to go and talk to the dictator, who smiled and gave him nothing.